Rajim. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum and a very good morning to everybody who's tuned into PTB World. You're definitely watching World this morning alongside Shiza Hashmi and Shahzad Khan, ladies and gentlemen. Today, ladies and gentlemen, is 5th of February 2019 and it is a very important day for the entire nation, for all those Pakistanis within Pakistan and outside Pakistan as well. As today we are in observance of Kashmir Solidarity Day, ladies and gentlemen.
So before you do move further, there's something I think we need to build up on. So for more than 7 decades, imagine for more than 70 years, there's a disputed territory in Southeast Asia which is disputed till date. And it happens to be, jumping here and there between India and Pakistan, of course. But we resonate with the Kashmiris more than, it's not just a bond which we have built because of land. I mean, of course, we are connected by land, we're connected by heart, by faith, by belief, and most of all by humanitarian grounds, unlike the hegemonic neighbors.
Exactly. And today, ladies and gentlemen, we definitely come right in front of you to actually stand against all the atrocities by the Indian administered or whatever forces they are over there in the Indian occupied Kashmir, ladies and gentlemen. And whenever we talk about atrocities, I think nobody can actually forget the number of lives Kashmiri brethren have actually given for their freedom, or and this is their fundamental right too as well, which they cannot voice. And it's been 7 decades, as Shiz has actually correctly mentioned. But ladies and gentlemen, since 1990 to 1991, Pakistan has been observing Kashmir Solidarity Day, and it's not just that we out of the blue we actually figured it out that this is something which we need to observe. And as Shiza said, that it's because of the fact that we are actually together by heart, together by belief, together on terms of humanity as well. And whenever we see such atrocities, it's our heart which actually fills up with quite a lot of sadness, and we still want to believe that there needs to be a little bit of more empathy towards the people of Indian occupied Kashmir too as well.
And Shahzad, you just mentioned that a lot of hundreds of thousands of people have actually rendered their life in, line of freedom, of course, but there are a lot of other human rights violations that go on in the territory that we've mentioned. And we have a small report that is going to shed light on the human rights violations, but imagine rape, imagine, orphaning childs, imagine widows, a huge number of them, and, martyrs and whatnot. So take a look at this one. Our team has produced a small package for all of you for understanding of what Kashmir Solidarity Day is.
Let's take a look.
Pakistan has and will always continue to support the Kashmiris morally, diplomatically and politically. Despite continuous atrocities and gross human rights violations in Indian-occupied Kashmir, Pakistan has always taken a principled stance even in the face of provocations. India has repeatedly tried to muddle the indigenous struggle of Kashmiris against Indian aggression, as Pakistan supported, while having no evidence to support the claim. This is an attempt by India to hide behind excuses while it unleashes state-sponsored terror on innocent Kashmiris. It is also an indication of India's nervousness and weakening stance on Kashmir. It is due to Pakistan's continuous efforts and commitment to Kashmir cause that the world today is aware of the plight of Kashmiris living under Indian occupation. India has maintained a stranglehold on how the Kashmiri struggle reaches the outside world. India bars international journalists from entering the disputed territory. It gags the social media when it wants to suppress the truth. UN has also admitted that the United Nations Military Observer Group in India and Pakistan was unable to fully function in Hell Kashmir due to India's non-cooperation. Had there been not Pakistan acting as voice for Kashmiris, the abuses of India against Kashmiris would have gone unnoticed. United Nations records in its various inquiry reports the abuses committed by Indian forces in Kashmir and calls for further action. It is all because of Pakistan's forceful efforts to wake up the conscience of the world on Kashmir. The United Nations, the European Union, the Organization of Islamic Cooperation and other international organizations recognize the abuses and atrocities in Indian-occupied Valley due to Pakistan's diplomatic efforts at these platforms. This year, as the Kashmiris around the world observe 5th February as Kashmir Solidarity Day, Pakistan stands with them. Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi has already arrived in London to attend International Conference on Kashmir. It was India who took the Kashmir dispute to the United Nations in 1948 when it saw the entire valley slipping away from its hands. And it is India which has opposed all attempts ever since to help resolve the Kashmir dispute. Pakistan will continue to raise the Kashmir issue before the world despite Indian hue and cry until the world wakes up.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, so that was a small report, and I think pretty much everybody can figure out, how the ground realities look.
Staggering
and
figures.
They're very grief, and I feel very sad as well. But there's one thing which I would love to reiterate upon, and that is that, for all those people, may them be within the Indian occupied Kashmir as well, for all those people who actually write to us as well. It's not just about one day. Every single day, whenever a Pakistani actually wakes up, I think that they think about their Kashmiri brethren. And there's no way that we are actually going to leave them alone too as well.
True,
But
and yeah, please
yes,
carry on.
go ahead.
Okay, and it was in the 80s and late 70s as well when actually physical violations started in occupied Kashmir. Of course, the Kashmiri brethren had started to defend themselves against the atrocities. And that was when everything sort of got real. I mean, it was physical, there was bloodshed everywhere, there was so many forms of violations. And it was in the early 90s, as you correctly mentioned, 1991, that we started observing Solidarity Day because we had to maintain the fact that no matter what, this is beyond the line of freedom, this is beyond the control of land, we stand by you no matter what. And that is what we've been doing ever since then. We observe a public holiday as well.
Exactly.
In most parts of the country, yes. We hold seminars, we hold all sorts of, speeches, skits and tableaus in educational institutions and otherwise as well. And
then there are rallies as well. Then, there are people who actually get together. They make a human chain as well to stand, to make sure that the Kashmiri brethren actually knows that we are standing right next to them as well, and we'll always be there. But then at the same time, ladies and gentlemen, whenever we talk about Kashmiri brethren, or probably, 5th of February, where we in Pakistan, over here, we definitely observe Kashmir Solidarity Day. So there are a lot of things which actually take place over there in Indian occupied Kashmir, and there's a lot of unrest on this day as well. So, just thinking about that, for a nation who's actually observing this day for their brothers and sisters, imagine that what they have to go through every single time, every single day, every single second of their life. And this is not what they were born for. This is not what their fundamental rights were promised in a way. This is not how the Constitution actually works. So these are the few things which we would love to highlight today, and we would want each and every Pakistani to have actually been participating towards the solidarity, and then at the same time to come down to a solution where, at least they can practice whatever their right is. So, and to discuss about all of these things, ladies and gentlemen, we have been joined with some amazing guests over here in the studios on this very amazing day. I mean, it shouldn't sound like amazing because it gives us pain, it gives us grief, it gives us, there are these harsh realities which we cannot be blindfolded to, and I think that these are the things which need to be out there as well, which needs to be heard by the United Nations or the Security Council. So to discuss all of these things, ladies and gentlemen, on my right hand side we've actually been joined by Mr. Altaf Hussain Wani. Hello sir, Assalamu Alaikum, how are you? Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
And it's wonderful to have you over here in the studios with us alongside Mr. Altaf. Ladies and gentlemen, we have actually been joined by Ms. Huma Jameel Babar. She's a lawyer and a social activist. Hello, Assalamu Alaikum, how are you? Thank you very much for joining us. Last but not the least, ladies and gentlemen, we have been joined by Mr. Zaman, Bajwa, who's a human rights activist once again. Hello, Assalamu Alaikum.
Walaikum salam. How are you?
Absolutely perfect. Thank you for joining us. I'll get the conversation started with Mr. Altaf over here. So, sir, every year, we do get together, and it's not just that it's one year. It's a ripple effect, ladies and gentlemen, just like the way you throw a stone into a pond of water, ripples come back to you. This is how it is. This is how every Pakistani feels. But how would you highlight the importance of this day, and what kind of impact do you think it's going to have on the external?
See, this day has a very huge impact on the freedom struggle in Kashmir, on the morals of the struggling people of Jammu and Kashmir who are laying these sacrifices for their realization of the right to self-determination in Kashmir. Tracing back the history of this Solidarity Day, if we go back, it comes in 1930s.
Okay.
The United Punjab at that time, when the people of Kashmir were resisting against the autocratic rule of Maharaja of Kashmir. At that time, the Muslims of undivided Punjab, they formed a Kashmir committee and showed their solidarity and support to the people of Kashmir in their struggle for their political and economic rights against the autocratic rule of Maharaja. Then again, in 1947, when India invaded Kashmir and occupied it illegally, it was the people from all sides of Pakistan, they volunteered themselves and took part in the resistance against the Indian forces, and because of that we have now the Azad Jammu and Kashmir, which is a liberated territory, and Gilgit-Baltistan, a liberated territory we have this time. And then again in 1975, it was 1974, there was an Indira Abdullah Accord at that time. Again, India maligned and maimed a political leader of law structure, and made him into submission. He had a record with, at that time, then Prime Minister of Pakistan, Zulfikar Ali Bhutto.
Right.
He said, it was in month of February, not necessarily the 5th of February, but it was the month of February,
Right.
when he said, people of Kashmir, there's a day to the people of Pakistan you have to celebrate. And it was total strike was observed in Indian occupied Kashmir, the call given by and then Prime Minister Mr. Zulfikar Ali Bhutto.
Okay.
And then in 90s, always it started with the late Qazi Hussain Ahmad Saab, and then the respective governments in Pakistan, they adopted, and then the government of Pakistan, people of Pakistan, the state as well as the political parties of Pakistan started observing this day.
Right.
This day has an immense, as I earlier said, a huge impact on the freedom struggle of Kashmir. People of
Definitely.
Kashmir don't see themselves alone in the
Right.
struggle against so a huge, the third largest number of army in the world. But they keep on struggling against them, facing lots of atrocities, facing huge human rights violations at the hands of the occupation forces, but they continue to struggle against that. So this day has a lot, and people of Kashmir value and the celebration of Solidarity Day,
Solidarity Day.
the solidarity expressed by the people of Pakistan, inside Pakistan, outside Pakistan, for their Kashmiri brethren. For this, I think I will commend the government of Pakistan, the people of Pakistan, the political parties of Pakistan, the social activists of Pakistan, for showing the solidarity with the struggling people of, besieged people of Indian
Right.
occupied
And
Jameel.
indeed, we'll keep on doing it in future as
Exactly.
well. But before we do start the real talk over here, which I really do want to have, I think it's time to move on to Ms. Huma over here. The impact of this day on the life of Kashmiris, Pakistanis, of course, and for you specifically, what is the importance of this day?
As sir elaborated the importance of day, so for me, for being a lawyer and for being a youth activist,
Right.
I would want to say that we should take it as a symbolic day, and we should take it as a legal case. Being a lawyer, I want to say, because if we fight this case in a legal way, we can be on better footing now.
Right.
So for the importance for the youth and for the Pakistan, obviously it is not only important. Kashmir is not only important for me. It is our need. It is our need to raise our voice that will reach to the international media, that should reach to the international forums, and the resolution passed by the UN and the Security Councils are not enough. So it's our responsibility to take the steps legally towards the resolution of this
Right.
issue.
Okay, that's great. And before I move on to Zaman Sab over here, there's this one thing which you said, that we actually need to, be
Make
in the
this-
process so that we can tackle these issues legally as well. But Huma, now over here, what I want to ask you is that for people who've actually been excluded to practice their right to self-determination, do you think anything legal is something which is viable to have been talked about, and that too about people who are actually in problem, in pain because of the Indian atrocities?
Sure, because it is purely a legal case. We have many UN resolutions, and our case is
23.
more, yes, 23
Specifically about this.
specifically resolutions. So we can better fight our case in international community. And for sorry to say, we have no international lawyers in Pakistan. So many
Right.
good international lawyers, and unfortunately, we remained failed to present our case in international community, because we cannot present our case just because of lack of the international lawyers.
Well, I think that's debatable. We'll come back to this, but let's just move on to Zaman Sab over here. So Zaman Sab, how would you highlight the importance of this day? And what do you think each and every member of the society needs to do? What role do you think we have got to play?
Actually, it's a symbolic day which is celebrated by the government of Pakistan and people of Pakistan in the solidarity of the Kashmiri youth and Kashmiri people who every day come out from their homes and do protest and show the chant Pakistan slogans, Pakistan Zindabad slogans, wave Pakistan flags in front of the 7 lakh Indian occupied forces. So if they show their affiliation and love with Pakistan every day. So being a Pakistani, it's a very important day that we show our solidarity on that day. But it's not just not a day. Every day our youth and community and Pakistan government is showing their solidarity. We are supporting them on moral basis, on diplomatic basis, or in all forums of the life, in international forums and in our community as well.
Right. Right. Thank you so much for saying that. Now coming back to you, Mr. Wani. You know, every other day, almost every other day, and it's so really sad to say this, but shutdowns are being observed in occupied Indian territory, of course, you know. And there are mobile internet services are suspended, you know, transport services are suspended, people are kidnapped and murdered without being questioned, all to deter the resolve of the Kashmiri people, so that maybe one day when they wake up, they're so tired of fighting, they don't even want to fight anymore. But we don't see that happening, which is absolutely great. The confidence and the courage is absolutely stunning. But in the near future, I really hope that does not happen. But that is the strategy of the enemy, right? So where are we going with this?
So the enemy has been trying it since last 70 years.
More than
And more
70 years,
importantly,
yeah.
from last 30 years, we have seen the militarized repression of the
Right.
Indian force in Kashmir. And unfortunately, there was no media, there was no social media at that time, no electronic media. People all over the world could know what's happening in Kashmir, because
Right.
India had a curtain wall, iron wall on Kashmir, and nobody was allowed, even these days, when there is no boundaries for the media and
Right,
everything.
right.
The international media is not allowed to go to Kashmir to cover Kashmir, and international human rights organizations are not allowed to go there. India tried its every bit to make people of Kashmir under submission, and so that they should give up their struggle for rights
Right.
recognition. But as they increased their militarized repression, there was more and more aggressive nature of response from the people of Kashmir, from
course.
each and every section of society of Kashmir.
Right.
And you can see if we would go to the past, year 2018, it was the deadliest year in the past decade in Kashmir. 160 people who have killed extrajudicial
Killings, yes, of course.
and among them 31 were children below the age of
Imagine.
15.
And nobody was questioned even. you know.
And 18 were women. 18 were women of them. And the pallets which were used from 2010 onwards and massively used during the protests in 2016 after the martyrdom of Wani, which has caused hundreds and thousands of people disabilities, and
Being
more of
blinded,
the mass
right.
blinding took place, which the New York Times said the year of dead eyes in Kashmir,
right.
as it was there. So these things are happening in Kashmir, but at the same time, you said that every day during the year 2018, it has been there was 108 incidents of when internet was shut down in
Right.
Kashmir. So in order that the information should not go out, the only
Right.
purpose of shutting down the internet and social media sites is that the information should not go to the international world.
But you know, that is also sort of hoodwinking the international
That is
community.
hoodwinking the international community. India has been trying to do so. But despite of all that, what India has been doing, what India has been trying to hide, you saw the 2018 was an important year for the people of Kashmir in many respects. One, unfortunately, that it was the deadliest year in the Kashmir. But more importantly, after 59 years, we had a report from the United Nations High Commissioner, the highest office in the United Nations responsible for the promotion and protection of human rights. The report has catalogued all the human rights violations that Indian occupation forces are committing in Indian occupied Kashmir, be it arbitrary detention, be it enforced disappearance, be it sexual violence,
Right.
be it the restriction on freedom of expression, opinion, restriction on the religious rights, and all that. So all these infringement on justice, and these are documented in that, well documented by the highest office.
Units
And
here,
this
yeah.
was the first time. And the response from the Indian state, there always
Still the
it was there is
same.
a fallacious, it is malicious, it was
Exactly.
written in a comfort zone and all that. But you see, for the first time, the United Nations High Commissioner, he came with another statement in support of his report, and not only the High Commissioner, the United Nations Secretary General
Right,
came with the
Antonio
support,
Guterres.
said that whatever the report has been documented by the High Commissioner is the voice of UN. So
Right,
it is now responsibility of the UN, the 193 United Nations membership.
Yeah.
It is their responsibility, because the Secretary General has owned this report.
Exactly.
So it was expected that after this report, India will feel some shame.
Right?
Because after that, we
You'd
saw
think.
in the European Parliament, in the British Parliament, there was a resolution and a report passed by. They also issued a report and confirming the report of the Human Rights Commissioner's office, and also asking India to give them access to the air. And similarly, there was another report from the Independent Permanent Human Rights Commission of OIC. They had a report. They had also documented the human rights violation in Kashmir.
Right.
Very analytical. They have given the whole details of that. They were not also allowed to visit to the Indian occupied
Exactly.
Kashmir.
Right.
And now the European Parliament also holds a debate on the human rights situation in Kashmir.
Yes.
So these are the things which are happening. So people, despite India's all efforts, that the world should remain silent on it, world should not know what is happening in Kashmir. The world is now getting to know.
Definitely.
The world is showing its concerns. But what we
Right.
see that these concerns are not enough.
But you know, that's right. We have to get back to the UNHCR report over here as well. But before that, we're heading out to a short break. A very small, interesting fact. I was reading an article from India, of course, where they have named pellet guns as harmless.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? I mean, that's just inhumane. Of course, we'll get back to this discussion. But after a short break, stay tuned. Good morning.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. For everybody who just got tuned into PT World, you watching World this morning alongside Shiza Hashmi and Shazad Khan. Today, ladies and gentlemen, is a very important day for the entire nation, for all those Pakistanis, whether may them be in Pakistan or outside Pakistan, as we stand in solidarity with our Kashmiri brethren and observe Kashmir Solidarity Day. But before we further move on with our conversation, what to do, what not to do, what solutions do we have on the table, there's this one thing which we want to share with you guys, because I believe that it's not just going to make us nostalgic about all of those sacrifices our Kashmiri brethren has made, but at the same time will give us that dedication and motivation towards working harder so that they can actually live and breathe freely. Let's take a look. Right, ladies and gentlemen, we definitely hope that you actually grasp the type of feel we were actually trying to disseminate onto all of those people who are out there. But before going towards the break and towards this patriotic song, there was this one thing which Mr. Wani was actually mentioning, and that was about the United Nations report, and you know that the commissioner has actually commented on that too as well, and the Secretary General. But now I would love to move on to Ms. Huma over here, because she happens to be a lawyer, and she initially mentioned that you know we do not have a lot of international lawyers within the country who actually put forward the case too as well. But with all of these reports coming out, what responsibilities do you think that all the UN member states have actually got onto their shoulders? And then what can be done to actually find a possible solution towards their freedom so that they can actually live freely and their right to self-determination?
See, right to life and right of self-determination is the basic right which is offered by not only by natural law but also the law of the land. Approximately every country ensures the liberty of and right of live. So we have the laws, we have the resolutions, we have the number of research papers, paperwork, documentations, but you are talking about the implementation of that documentation. So unfortunately, we knocked the door of UN many times. We submitted our documentation there many times. We sent our delegations there many times. But again, I say, whenever there is a delegation of Pakistan from the Pakistan at UN, we say only one or two lawyers which were the international lawyers which present Pakistan in that forum. But every time they only defend Pakistan over there. Instead of that, our Kashmir case is very strong, and we have strong footing on that behalf, but we always failed to present our case forcefully over there. So I think being a lawyer, we need a legal team who has expertise in international law. So that only the ways to resolve this issue is only the law. If we have a grip over law, international law specifically, so it is also a political issue, but it can be resolved only on a table talk and through law.
Exactly.
Implementation of law.
But you know, you're saying it right, but it's so hard to understand that, you know, within an area where people are actually not given their basic rights, how do you think that we can actually form a case and then go and fight legally as well? Wani Sahab wants to add.
Yeah, you see, Huma is right that we should fight it legally. It's a legal case, that's true. But we have seen the laws are written there, but unfortunately the world is very forgetful. We have seen the states which came into existence even when the UN membership, when the Kashmir case was in UN, it was 54, now it is 193. So that means 143 countries, 40 countries have exercised their right to self-determination since then. It's only the people of Kashmir who are struggling for this right till date. So here comes the double standards of the international community.
Right.
What we need to agitate at the international level is one, that as Huma said, it's a legal case, it's a legal one, and the United Nations has passed a resolution on it, and there is no compromise on the right celebration of people of Kashmir, which again, this report has also said, which I was talking about, the Human Rights Commissioner's report. Human Rights Commissioner has said and has negated all those arguments given by India or other people who are saying that UN resolutions are now obsolete, they have nothing, they are old, they are not implemented. The United Nations High Commission said the right celebration of people of Jammu and Kashmir is protected under international law. So the law is there on our side, that's there. But what we need is to agitate. What Pakistan needs to do, first of all, it's the government of Pakistan. They have been lobbying for Kashmir cause. They have been advocating Kashmir cause at each and every forum. But they need to rather improve their level of advocacy at each and every level, strengthen their level of advocacy. As this time, today we will be having a conference in the British Parliament. That's a good move by the Foreign Minister of Pakistan will be there, and all of the senators will be there. So we need to reach out each and every power center and all capitals
Right.
to agitate our case, and along with that to the civil society. What our youth leaders can do, they have to connect. They have to connect with their civil society actors around the globe,
Definitely.
make them aware about Kashmir, what is happening in Kashmir. The daily basis human rights violations in Kashmir ought to be shared with them so that they can come to know about this. Along with that, we have to put forward to them the legal case of Kashmir.
Right,
That this is the
definitely.
legality of Kashmir, and this is what India is doing. The India you call the incredible India. You have to show the true face of India to the international world, to
Sir,
the international civil society.
Right,
Thereby you can muster support from civil society, and thereby the governments will come to support of that voice. You see, the High Commissioner has asked for establishment of a commission of inquiry. Now this is responsibility of the Human Rights Council to establish the commission of inquiry, and we have to reach out to the 47 members of the council who are members of this council. Leaving India, India is one of the members, but 46 members are there, and 13 of them are Muslim
Right.
from Muslim countries. So we have to reach out to them, make aware of them that there should be a commission of inquiry. If
Right.
India has nothing to hide, why they are not allowing a commission of inquiry?
Definitely.
What India, we have to talk to the world. When India says to the world, it's a bilateral issue. When it comes to the world, India says it's a bilateral issue. It's between India and Pakistan.
come to table to resolve.
When it comes to Pakistan, it says to Pakistan, no, it's our internal matter. When it comes to the people of Kashmir, it says no, it's a law and order matter.
Right.
So they blame Pakistan. They try to malign the people's struggle for freedom towards the terrorism.
Right.
So we have to take note of all these things. We have to frame our arguments. Our youth, the youth ambassadors, they should frame their arguments like this
Definitely.
and make world know about the real happenings on Kashmir.
Sir, you know, of course, these are some of the viable solutions that are, of course, great to look at and maybe sometimes can be implemented as well, but there is a multi-layered approach to the peace process that we're looking at. We will come to that, but moving on to Mr. Bajwa over here. Since we've mentioned about the international community and the engagement that they are showing in case of Kashmir, after so many years, this first UN report that we mentioned in 2018 sort of, made a lot of people pay attention to this. And only one person, Norwegian Prime Minister, then spoke that Kashmir only needs to be, this issue needs to be sorted out through negotiations, political negotiations, and no war, of course. Look at the pace of the process. I mean, after so many decades, there's just probably very few people coming up and speaking about it and not even doing something about it, just speaking. So considering this pace of the problem that we're facing, how long is this ever going to take?
Actually, I'm very optimistic. I'm very positive regarding the progress on Kashmir issue, Kashmir dispute, because actually at this time, the people of Kashmir and the youth of Kashmir started to doing their own work. If you say to the word Khurram Parvez, he wrote a book, Structure of Violence.
Okay.
It is a book which is put on all the legal cases which are registered under the Indian administration, Indian legal form. So and the ladies from the Kashmir, they wrote their own book. Story of the Kunan Pushpura. Do you remember Kunan Pushpura?
Right.
Actually, the youth is now involved in all this activity, and as well as you are mentioning about the international community. International community and international media is also interested in this issue right now at this moment. The New York Times, Al Jazeera, and other major newspapers wrote the stories about that. If you Wani was mentioned that there was a report after the martyrdom of Burhan Wani when the pellet gun was on peak. The Vision for Human Rights, they mentioned in the Vision for Human Rights report, actually it was a panel of doctors. They published a report and they said that India is involved in a systematic victimization of the youth of the Kashmir to blind them. So international community is taking interest. And a very the thing is main is that recent government is also taking interest in, like they connected to the leadership of Kashmir when going to London.
Okay.
So things are positive.
Okay.
So we should focus on
Right.
things, and by the passage of time, these things will be mature.
Indeed, and I think that this is something which we need to do as well. But since you're a human rights activist as well yourself, there's this one thing which I would request you, and that is please share the number of human rights violations which have taken place in these 7 decades and more than 7 decades now, so that people outside can be made more aware, because we open windows to 45, 46 different countries. Please go ahead and speak about, and what is the nature of those human rights
Actually,
violations?
do you raise a very important question that before passive some time we were saying this just the numbers of the today 50 people martyred in occupied Kashmir. Now right now the youth and the scholars of Kashmir are doing the numbers with their stories. With their stories today, Insha Malik was the victim of pellet guns. A few days back, there was an 18-year-old Hiba, 18 months Hiba, who lost his eyes due to the pellet guns. So at this moment, they are giving the numbers with the stories. So in this era, Kashmir lost more than 60,000 and sometimes more than 80,000 people, 90,000 people in this dispute. So it's a major human rights violation.
Epidemic, of
It is
course.
indeed, and what makes me feel so worst is that I think a year ago Miss Mishal Malik was over here on the show as well, and she happened to share that while she was in the Indian occupied Kashmir, what was happening. So she said that one moment it's fine, and the other moment you could hear shelling, bullets being fired, people running here and there, and then deaths taking place. So it's just very chaotic, I think. And I think that in the first phase, what we need to do is that we probably need to bring India into a position where they taper down all of these atrocities as well, and then move on with the peace process. So how do you think, since Shiza has mentioned that it's going to be a multi-layer process, don't you think that first things first, we actually need to be so objective and subjective at the same time with the fact that the peace process needs to continue?
You see, when it comes to the peace process, as far as the people of Kashmir or the leadership of all parties Hurriyat Conference Kashmir, they have always talked about that we want to resolve the Kashmir issue through a peaceful means. We don't want the bloodshed of our youth.
Exactly.
We don't want our future to be killed these days. We don't want our people to suffer in this chilly winter in Kashmir. You see, as today, when there is huge snow in Kashmir, the whole valley is under siege, and the people are outside their houses. They have been asked to sit outside, and siege and search operations are taking place. So our leadership doesn't want it. We don't want it. We want a peaceful resolution of Kashmir. And so has Pakistan offered always. Each and every government of Pakistan has offered the India talks. And when this current government took the charge of, the Prime Minister in his very first speech offered a peace dialogue to the India, and even gave the concession, the Kartarpur corridor, they opened unilaterally, Pakistan opened, and this was just for peace. And the peace cannot be created in vacuum. It has to be on ground. You have the other side, the Indian side, they are not ready to talk. Unfortunately, the current government in India, which is led by right-wing Hindu extremists, they are not ready to talk on these letters because they want to consolidate their vote bank.
That's
the
what I was
Hindutva
about to
vote
say,
bank, they want to consolidate because their elections are near. So they say now analysts just keep on saying that there will be talks after the elections. So should we leave the Indians free to kill Kashmiris until elections are held in India? But India is doing so. India started lots of operations in Kashmir, and most recently the Operation Flash Out, as described by the Indian Army Chief. He threatened each and every Kashmiri who comes in support or protests or throws a stone, he will be treated as a terrorist, and they are doing so. Unfortunately, the Indian government has given their assent to all these things which are happening in Kashmir by virtue of those draconian laws. You were talking about the nature of human rights violation which has taken place. There are documented cases of over 100,000 people have been killed since last 3 decades, and over 10,000 people have been forcibly disappeared. 7,000 police people, they were killed in arbitrarily they are killed, and the use of Public Safety Act used to keep people out of circulation. Our leaders are in jail since some of them have 26 years in jail, some of them are from 10 years, some 20 years, some 15 years.
In house arrest.
And again and again, the Public Safety Act is invoked against them, and some of them have been kidnapped by the NIA, and to defame the moment they have been kept in the Delhi Tihar jail. We have seen the executions of Maqbool Bhatt and Afzal Guru in these cases, and 19 of our leaders or activists are on death row in Kashmir. So these are the kinds of violations which they are taking place. How can we have a peace process in
course.
this.
Exactly.
If India is not ready to listen.
This is what state-sponsored terrorism is,
Yeah.
right? So very quickly towards the end, of course, you know, you've mentioned that, okay, if this was the condition, if this was probably, you know, to believe that some part of Kashmir tends to remain in India, then what are the rights of the Kashmiris we're looking at over there in terms of, you know, we've already seen property rights and whatnot?
So
Is
you
that
see,
a peaceful solution, though?
Which we don't say that some people want to say there, some people here. We just want to say that let the people of Kashmir, the people of Jammu and Kashmir decide their future. If they want to live with India, let them.
But thank you very much
Thank
for
you so
being with
much.
us. It was lovely to have you on this on this day where we actually stand right next to our Kashmiri brethren, and wherever our voice or our you know, faces are being seen or our voices are being heard, remember that there's no way that actually Pakistan is going to back out of this process too as well. We'll make sure that Kashmiris get their right to self-determination. Pakistan, Zindabad, look after yourselves.
Take care.